ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the episode number 2 of our India Reach series as part of our virtual educational series on MySecurity Media's MySecurity Marketplace. My name is Chris Cubbage. I'm the Executive Editor for MySecurity Media, and we're joined by Mr. Raman Sapori, my co-host there in Delhi, as part of the Aerospace and Defence Consultants of India Association. Raman, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you, Chris.
And again, we mentioned this is episode number 2, and we are joined, we will be joined shortly by Col Inderjeet Singh, the Chief Cybersecurity Officer for Vara Technology, and we also have on the line Mr. Rajiv Saxena, who is the former Group Head for National Informatics Centre. Rajiv, beg your pardon. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, Pete. Thank you very much for inviting me over here.
Very good. And we're going to be looking at the India's IT channel insights and also the cybersecurity spending forecasts and a general conversation. So the format for this particular session is around about half an hour to 40 minutes. We do invite questions from the audience as well, and also specific questions for each of our speakers, as well as Raman and myself. If there's something that we can't particularly cover in this episode, we will follow it up next week. And just while we have Inderjeet joining us, we will just cover off. So we covered off last week our episode 1 introduction in terms of the series subject matter. And one of our challenges here being the size of India and obviously Australia and the ASEAN region, nothing's off the table. So we are covering all aspects of technology. We do have a lean towards cybersecurity and cyber warfare, but then also everything from IoT, defence, aerospace. Just for those who want to just catch up on episode 1 from last week, it is available on our YouTube channel for MySecurity Media. You can simply go to YouTube, and we'll have the link on this particular episode notes also. So that is available. We went for just under an hour on that particular episode. And I just want to touch on some news for the day. Particularly from Australia, the Australian government has announced just under a $1.35 billion funding for cybersecurity as part of the defence budget. That is a 10-year spending program, but it is classed as one of the largest cybersecurity sort of programs announced. And it also follows on something that we covered off last week, was a $240 million New South Wales cybersecurity fund. Also, so that's available on the Australian Cybersecurity website if you want to catch up on that. And some other news just from today, Lockheed Martin made this announcement, Lockheed Martin Australia, in terms of their update on their Aegis combat system upgrades here in Australia, and the air warfare destroyer HMS Hobart there in the picture, firing a Harpoon blast test vehicle into the East Australian in the exercise area. So again, if you want to catch up on what Lockheed Martin Australia has been doing, again, that will be on the Australian Security magazine website. And some news out of the Australian Space Agency. So just an update on Australia's space program and RMIT working in the spacesuit area and working with NASA and the European Space Agency. And again, this is on our Drastic channel, Drastic News, which is our drones and robotics and also our space channel. We had a question briefly last week from defence and defence cooperation between India and Australia, and someone asked, you know, how do they sort of control what materials, defence-related materials, can be traded? And for the audience here, there is a Defence Export Controls as part of the Department of Defence, and that website is openly available. And there's an online tool there for Defence and Strategic Goods List, where you can have a look at what is allowed, what is not allowed, what is controlled, and then there's also some applications there if you want to find out some more. So for those who asked that question last week, I'm going to hand over to Raman, and while we do that, I'll get the invitation sorted for Abhijit. And if Raman, can I hand you over to introduce Mr. Saxena?
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Rajiv Saxena, Senior Member of Aerospace Defence Consultants Association of India, He is the authority from Government of India, retired on 30th April after serving the government for 33 years as head of the National Informatics Centre. For those friends in Australia, NIC is the key nodal agency for all the government IT enablement things. And in this particular thing, he also worked as the advisor to Delhi Police, and he's been currently writing books, and he's the person who's been writing thought leadership with various governments also, and the Indian Information Technology Act. He has been a core key member with the Indian Parliament itself. Thank you, Mr. Rajiv, for joining us today. And
Yes,
we
thank you.
welcome Inderjeet also. Over to Chris.
Thank you very much. And Inderjeet, thank you very much for joining in. I was just coming to get you, and so thanks for finding your way in.
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon. How are you?
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry we've not had an opportunity to speak to you. And Rahman, would you mind doing the honours and introducing Mr. Singh?
Thank you, Chris. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. What you have is the tiger of cybersecurity from India, named Col Inderjeet Singh from Military Intelligence. He is the Chief Cybersecurity Officer at Vara Technologies. He is the most listened to speaker in India, and he's got a big fan following on the internet also. And if Inderjeet can't solve a cybersecurity problem, nobody else can solve in the world. And mind you, ladies and gentlemen, he can hack any and every website. He can hack in your phone without you knowing about it. So Inderjeet, we are very feeling safe you are on the website today. And he has been an alumni of IIT Kharagpur, and he's a management. And Inderjeet loves to play golf. At the same time, he collects a lot of data. So we have to be careful about Inderjeet. So better to have Inderjeet on our friend circle side, so we are safe.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Rahman. Inderjeet, we've not had an introduction, and Rajiv, I think what we might do is just get you to both explain your roles and some of your interest. We had a pre-discussion with Rajiv, and we'll cover off a little bit what he does, but I think, Mr. Singh, if you could maybe just cover off on your particular role as your Chief Cybersecurity Officer and your current focus.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and really wonderful. So just to give you a perspective of what I'm trying to do and what are my focus area, and what Raman sir has brought in, that I've been in the cyberspace for quite some time and having the cyber warfare and this terrorism. So those are the areas which I've been working for quite a number of years now. And having said so, my focus is presently on the OT security, which I'm trying to work to secure all the critical information infrastructure in the country. That's one area which I'm very interested in. Second area, which is the threat intelligence, because there's so many hack attacks which are happening in India right now, and all the APT players all across the world who are there, they're finding India a hunting ground. The last couple of weeks now, especially after the COVID. So threat intelligence is another area to gather the threat intelligence. What are they targeting at? What are the infrastructure, what they're trying to get into? What are the phishing attacks, what they're trying to do it? So threat intel is another area which we can create at the national level, because if we are secure at the national level, all our other infrastructures really get secure thereafter. And then is in the cert which I really work on, right? So those are like whether it's a cert fin or the power cert. How do we provide them the solutions to those cert, to secure their networks against any malware attack which is taking place right now? So that is interesting. And then another technology which I would like to get into the the URL filtering or the DNS filtering at the MNO level, right? So that's the technology is again of interest to me. Then some bit of other technologies of deception, zero trust, which I work on. Some of them are doing a project under me, and they are doing the PhD for the zero trust. So those are the areas are of interest to me. And then something interesting is the voice biometrics, right? So while we are in COVID, we are, so the voice and the facial biometric combination. So that's of because that's the market, that's the technology which is going to be seeing us through in next couple of years, while your finger biometrics is not the technology anymore which we have to rely on for another for 1 year or 2 years. So by the time this will get obsolete, so the voice is the next biometrics, what we are trying to work on, and I have a combination with the facial. So those are the areas which I'm presently working on right now.
And you're in Delhi, Mr. Singh?
Yeah, I'm in Delhi, and I shuttle between Delhi and Bombay.
Okay.
So that's where I have the office at both the places. So I keep shuttling between both of them.
Well, it looks like all three of you are in Delhi, and obviously I'm here in Sydney. If I could just touch on Inderjeet, are you a member of any key associations in the security sector, and what sort of certifications and standards would you be looking at in your role?
Yeah, I have got plenty of certifications for myself itself, and whether it's a kind of a CSSP or the kind of CISA roles and all. So those kind of things. But yes, those are the certifications which are required by everyone and anyone who's there in the cyberspace now. And plus, I personally feel that in addition to the certification, there's something on a hands-on training. So training on the threat end and the .NET forensics. So that's area which one has to get into, because most of the people may be a cyber ethical hacker, CEH, but when it comes to doing the OSINT, they are really fumbling to get the right results. So those are the areas which are of interest where we have to really work on.
Okay, it might be something we do in a future episode, Rahman, is get the ISACA chapters together on here as well. I imagine there's obviously a Delhi chapter, and we're media partners with a chapter in Malaysia and also here in Sydney also. So it could be something we can discuss. Rajiv, if you don't mind, if you could repeat the introduction you gave me earlier offline in terms of what you're currently focused on and your areas of specialty, and maybe even a bit of your background as well as formerly of the NIC.
Yes, thank you, Chris. I was working at NIC for about 34 years. I'm a graduate from the University of British Columbia, and I'm a PhD in IT. I've worked on different assignments at NIC. I've worked in the Indian Parliament. I was working for the IT enablement of the entire Vigyan Bhavan. I set up the NICCA, which is the certifying authority of NIC. Then I was the person who wrote the framework document for e-procurement, and I worked on different projects at Tihar Jail for biometrics, for security of the prisons, and I'm an expert in the e-government, like any of the applications. What are the specifications? I was also the person involved in selecting the vendors for the cybersecurity of different applications. I've created the data centers, and where I have written the policy framework that how and any website can be hosted on the servers. So I've worked on at that particular aspect also. I've organized a large number of hackathons from NIC, and people will be very happy to know that a hackathon is being organized on 3rd, 4th, and 5th of August 2020 by the AICTE, and where we have got a very good participation, and I'll be also joining this particular hackathon from New Delhi.
Okay, very good. So that's something on the 4th and the 5th. That's a hackathon. And is that, Rahman, is that something that the ADCI is running, or is that, did I get that acronym wrong?
No, see, each member is part of many such activities.
Got it.
But as a broad framework, cyber security is one of our key focus areas. So when it comes to ethical hacking, that becomes a subset of the cybersecurity framework itself.
Great.
Yeah.
Rajiv, if you can send me the details for that, we'll have the details of that event on. If that's in August, we'll be able to cover that and we'll get some information on for next week as well.
Like I'll collect that information, and since I have that email with me, I'll send you the details, entire details to you,
Yep.
so that it can be publicized over there.
Great.
What happens, we have a large amount of schools and colleges and universities and a lot of engineering colleges. So what happens that we raise the problem, send it to the different institutes, and they come to a common ground and or a common place, and where they are creating the apps for a period of 3 days, and we are giving them a very big amount of cash award. So it's sort of a motivation for that. And the problems are the real life problems, which the different ministries of the government of India are having problems with. What happens is the NIC has its own data centers. There are about 4 or 5 different data centers, which is the national data centers, and there are data centers which are available within the state also. So the policy framework is that each and every website has to be security audited, and unless or until it has been security audited, it will not be hosted on the NIC website. On top of that, important databases where the data is stored and where you do the searches, you have to get a GCM certificate. And this particular certificate is used to have a HTTPS environment so that the data can be encrypted while transferring over there. Nowadays, government is very keen that since NIC is no more a certifying authority, so we are trying to promote, or the government is trying to promote a e-sign culture, where each time you do a transaction, you get a digital certificate in a real time. Use that particular e-sign framework, and and complete your transaction. So government wants to make it about each e-sign digital certificate for as low as about 30 rupees to 40 rupees, and it can be used over there. So I'll do that. What I'll do that I'll collect the information and send it to you in a day or two, and so that you can publicize it.
Very, very good. Thank you very much. Colonel Singh, is any updates on that in terms of ring true with you in terms of what you hear in the market with that, sort of something like e-sign?
So e-sign is definitely, is the next level of the security what we are, and most of the, enterprises are looking in for the e-sign solutions which are there. They want to get into that, and it will be a very good market for India as a whole to work on.
Okay. Just on a couple of the audiences, we've got couple just having some webcam issues. Sometimes if you just log out and log back in, that can be rectified for you. But otherwise, everyone else looks like they're getting a good stream, so that's fine. Look, we might move on in terms of our format. If anyone's got any specific questions, please, you can raise your hand or ask a question. But for Himanshu and Mahesh, hopefully your streaming is improving as we come through. Something that came out today in terms of from the Canalys stream was India's blocking of 59 Chinese origin apps in mobile devices. Any comments from the team here? And Raman, how do you think this will impact and potentially the opportunities here as well?
Chris, I'll just put in a sentence here that after this India-China face-off in the Ladakh region has been there, the Chinese mobile apps, including the video conferences, there was a rejection by many users, and then government has yesterday made an advisory and issued a notification by the Ministry of Homeland Security of blocking these 59, and it has been the most hot news of last 4 to 5 hours on the internet also. The Global Counter-Terrorism Council, GTCC, has also appreciated this. I wonder what the rest of the world is going to take this as a lead on, but I am seeing it as an opportunity for the Indo-Australian startup companies the space which is now vacated by the Chinese mobile apps can be now filled up by the companies by Indo-Australian ventures. So there is a huge market here, business as well as startups also. Some of the audience who are listening to this should be a music to them, because the space which is now vacated by the Chinese mobile apps can now be filled in by the Indian end. So I suggest that your Australian Minister, Mr. Rohit Manchanda, can start a, access to the Indian companies. We can set up the, networking with Indian companies who are willing to fill in that space. India is the market for software development. So
any insight? Sorry, Raman. Any insight into the type of apps that have been blocked? Are these social media apps, or are they?
The list is a huge list of 59. When starting with TikTok and then many other things, the list can be shared with the customers.
So TikTok has been banned in India, has it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so TikTok is banned. There's a cam scanner, and other apps which were being used. Most of the makeup apps, games, right?
Yep.
So those are the ones which have got blocked, and I think it's very pertinent to block them because most of the apps were stealing their data and siphoning over the data to the servers in China.
Okay, well, maybe we'll stay on Canalys for a second. We were going to have a Canalys analyst on just to talk about the IT channel sector in India, and Canalys came out with a report. So there's been a couple of analysts that we follow, Global Data and Canalys, on the Indian market. One of the reports is that the Indian sector, the IT sector, is going to take a significant hit and reduce over time the enterprise spending in IT as a result of COVID-19. But this is going to be something that we're seeing obviously around the world for enterprise budgets. But the top 8 vendors have been identified, and this was relative to cybersecurity. Obviously, Cisco is still leading there at 9.1%. This just for Q1, that's a $10 billion US sector in terms of leading cybersecurity vendors, all the way through down to Trend Micro and McAfee at 4% and 3.5% each. And then we have another report recently. I think this is in the same one, cybersecurity shipment breakdown for Q1 2020. Endpoint security is at the top there at 16.9% year-on-year growth, followed by network security. So that's a pretty big rise. Colonel Singh, what's your thoughts on endpoint security? It's obviously a key aspect of
yeah, that's right. So what has happened is while we are in work from home environment, and most of the machines which are the laptops which are there, they didn't have the endpoint security at all, right? And because they were working in an environment, they were closed environment which was there, and it's left all the networks very vulnerable to data loss. So the endpoint security is increasing. Most of the companies are going in for DLP solutions. They're going in for the MDM to control the endpoint, and third one is a VPN. Okay,
Yep.
So the endpoint security market is actually growing right now because people are not going to be coming to the offices for a long time, and we are all going to be working from the home itself. So we need to secure the company data. We cannot ensure, we cannot, let the data go hayway. We also don't want people to connect to our network. So the endpoint security has become important. Second, the MDMs have become very important because most of the customers are using the BYOD, and most of the people in the company, so they can steal the data while uploading onto the different sites, or the different sites can actually steal the credentials of the company credentials altogether, because most of the browsers do have the capability of saving the passwords and the credentials. So when you're shuffling between the company site or the company application to the Google or some other application, so you tend losing those kind of company credentials. So
Yep.
this sector is quite hot right now, and we are seeing a lot of progress as regards the the funding or the buying is concerned in the infra.
Also touches on IoT
I'd like to
security,
add,
obviously.
I'd like to add on
Rajiv?
that.
Yep.
I'd like to add on that. What is happening? Most of the executives who are working in the financial sector or in the IT sector have started working from home. So what companies have done, they have given them a pre-configured laptop with all VPN settings. What Colonel Inderjeet has said, and they are using when they are working on the for the company, they are only using a single laptop so that the company details or the password and the company secret are not actually leaked out for the hackers over there. So I agree with Colonel Inderjeet that in a dedicated laptops have been sent to the kids' home, and they are using only and only the dedicated computers while using the working from home thing. And I'm pretty sure that this particular trend of having a two laptops, which means one dedicated for the company's work and other for the personal work, will be the norms for the future.
Yep. It was something that we actually raised initially for PCs and mobiles in terms of the IT channel and the sudden change in PCs. At the moment, I can't even get a webcam. All the webcams in Australia seem to have disappeared. They're all sold out. So you can see that the hardware devices, IT devices, are in hot demand. I've got a question here in terms of, and I'll just raise it in terms of if someone wants to grab this question. Do we have information on how much military data was hacked in 2020 after COVID-19? What are the loopholes India needs to fix? Anyone want to have a
no, I'll take this question. Yeah. So we didn't have any loss of military data per se till now because all our networks are air-gapped, and that's pretty secure, and so there's no intrusion. As regards the critical information which is there, the CII networks which have got hacked because of COVID or because of the China. We saw it on Sunday. Last Sunday, there was a hack attack in J&K power grid. We saw it. We saw the National Highway Authorities of India getting ransomware last night. We saw the railway network signaling got hampered. There was a malware attack last week, and the Ep2 has become pretty active in last couple of days, and we also find the panda. There's a Chinese panda which is there, is very active. For the last couple of weeks now, after the post-COVID situation.
I'd like to add on that. Recently, about 3 days back, a very leading broadband provider of the internet was out of work, and its services were not available for the general public for 8 hours. I don't want to name that company because of obvious security reasons, but yes, a large number of banks were attacked, but those attacks were repulsed. My actually previous friends in the CERT in says that on an average they are getting about 40,000 different attacks on Indian websites which are being monitored by CERT India. Thank you.
Are you seeing definitely something we've seen over the last few weeks? And in fact, it's interesting since Australia signed the Defence Arrangement Agreement a few weeks ago, the Prime Minister, at a prime ministerial level, Australia's Prime Minister been sort of actively promoting cybersecurity announcements and also declaring that there's been active attack scenarios being played out in Australia. Prime Minister Modi, or at a very senior level at a national government, has that been something that's been at a response as well in terms of these attacks? I'm hearing it. At a government level, is something similar happening there?
Yes, there are some directions which have really come in, especially after the power grid attack which happened on Sunday, where the hackers were able to control 24 servers out of the 101 servers of theirs, and they were able to steal the data from four of the servers. So there's an immediate directions that all the devices, especially for the critical information infrastructure, will be checked in for the malware and for some of the components which are coming from different countries and of origin. So those kind of directions are very much in place. We are trying to strengthen all the security networks, especially the CIIs right now, because we are finding those CIIs are under the major threat, one after the other. So those things are in place. We are working on to upskill or upgrade those areas where the vulnerability exists.
Yeah. So obviously critical infrastructure is something that's, and you mentioned at the start, Colonel Singh, in terms of your interest in OT security, SCADA networks as well. We'll just move on as we can, and I might have gone one step. Nope. So in terms of what we want to try and cover over the next couple of weeks in terms of cybersecurity, there's a cybersecurity policy as part of the New South Wales government direction with India, and now we are hoping to have Mr. Rohit Machanda, our New South Wales Trade and Investment Commissioner, join us. I think he's looking like the 21st of July will be with us, and we also have penciled in the Australian Ambassador for Cyber Affairs and Critical Technology, Dr. Tobias Beacon, should be coming on with us on the 14th. And definitely something we'll be seeking from the Ambassador is the international engagement cybersecurity strategy. And it's these types of discussions that I'm sure he would have a lot of contribution to. That slide was out of order. So this was the slide I was actually looking for as we move through that. This is the mention in terms of the impact of COVID-19 on enterprise IT budget, and this is specifically for the Indian market. About 36% have indicated that they are likely to decline by about 10%. Maybe I can open up to the panel of, as cyber attacks are increasing, but also enterprise budgets are decreasing, where is the challenge here? And do you think cybersecurity is still one of those stronger sectors that's likely to be propped up? Even though ICT spending overall will be decreasing, the spend on cybersecurity is likely to remain the same or likely to increase? Maybe I'll open it up to Inderjeet. What's your thoughts on the requirements? Is it a dollar problem? Is it a spend problem?
So it is a spend problem right now because of the cash flow and the capital or the working capital which is there with all the enterprises. They're trying to save it for the rainy days right now, and they don't want to really spend on any of the IT networks. Yes, but cybersecurity is one area which is of concern to them. So what they're trying to do is, whatever projects they had, they're trying to push it by, say, for example, from the second quarter, they've gone to fourth quarter. Okay, but that are still on cards right now, which I find, because I'm being interacting with a lot of customers all across in different sectors. So I'm seeing that shift from quarter 2 to quarter 3, quarter 3 to quarter 4. So they're not removing that from the list of their procurement or the wish list, because they know cybersecurity is very important for them to safeguard their data. So we are going to see those things coming up maybe by quarter 3 or quarter 4 now.
Yep.
Chris, I would like to add one point.
Go, Raman.
Yeah. So India has got a large number of medium and small enterprises, MSME sector. In aerospace defense itself, there is a last count is about 8,000 plus companies. Overall, we have got about 100,000 companies of this size. Now, when it comes to the aerospace defense sector, Inderjeet and Rajiv ji can correct me, there is a certification required by each of these companies before they get into the global supply chain called the ISMS 27001. The Ministry of Home Affairs in India, that is our Interior Ministry, has made it mandatory to clear the enterprise security. If they do not have, they won't be allowed to participate in the aerospace defense tenders per se. Yeah. So this is not a luxury, it is a compulsion. So while the capex may reduce, But this particular time period of the COVID-19 and another 3 to 6 months time could be used by the small and medium enterprise to bone up their security, because any data lost is loss of revenue and loss of money. And many companies are now doing the retraining of their employees from home, because security has become a challenge itself, and people are logging from various devices also, and it is a loss of data, leakage of data, and espionage by the competition companies, ethical or unethical, whatever you may call it. So the companies which are into the design, definitely it's a must. Companies which are into the build to print, it is a necessary. And the foreign OEM, when they come to visit Indian, selecting their supply chain, one of the mandatory is what are the certifications you have. If you do not have ISMS, you are shifted to the next review. You won't be taken the first review. So it has become a mandatory requirement itself, both by the government as well as by the global players itself. Inderjeet, you would like to add some points on that?
Yeah, no, that is there because most of the companies are now looking in for the audits that they are not done. Shifting to the cloud is second part which I would like to cover because because of the COVID, they were working from the infrastructure was in the on-premise. So we are going to see that shift from the on-premise to cloud, and that's the right way because of the COVID. So there are certain amount of changes what we are seeing right now in Indian complete ecosystem. But cybersecurity, of course, is on the top. They are not trying to put off the cybersecurity procurements. The reasons are very much known because we are seeing so many attacks which are happening for the last couple of months now on different segments. So whether it's your personal email IDs, whether it's your critical infrastructure, whether it's your banks, everything is under attack, and the magnitudes are different. So the losses are different. So we have to gear in and gear up for that kind of environment in total.
You've just answered a question that someone raised here: is what sectors are most likely to get cyber attacked? I was going to just move that slightly. And when you mentioned movement to the cloud, is there any particular sectors that are fast moving? When we were in India last year, there was discussion around the cloud, but government also seems to be a little bit slow in their movement to cloud-based infrastructure. What's your comments on the cloud move?
Yeah, so it's an interesting space right now, cloud. After the COVID, what was happening, the small and the medium enterprise, I'm not talking of the larger enterprise, the small and the medium enterprise companies which were there, they had, one or two IT guys handling their data center or a one-room data center kind of stuff. After the COVID hit, they're not able to manage that particular infrastructure at all because, the one chap, two chap, so that's a pretty difficulty. So moving to the cloud right now is most what we are seeing is by the SME, right? The MSMEs who are there, and there's a lot of influx on shifting to the cloud because it is taking away a lot of their problems of the data security, the data loss, the data privacy, and the maintenance of the infrastructure cost, which was pretty heavy. Like I told you that most of the companies are trying to reduce their operating cost and trying to realign to the costs which are coming up in the next future. So IT, while they're not going to buy the IT hardware, so they are trying to shift to the cloud to mitigate the rise in the costs which are there.
They become agile.
Yes. So that's the area which is quite interesting, and the cloud movement is we are seeing the movement in cloud deployment.
Yeah. Where is?
I'd like to add on that.
Go, Rajiv.
I'd like to add on that. The number of the data centers which are being built into the nation has increased tremendously. There's a company called Tata Computers, and they are building. They are building a large number of data centers all over the country. So the cost of hosting the applications on the cloud has really increased. And the security features for the entry level that are being shared among all the participants. So I agree with Col Inderjeet. Many of the small companies are going in for the cloud framework, and so that they don't have to depend too much on security of the servers, because the servers have to be run 24 hours a day, and also the cost of operations of these companies will go down tremendously. My another aspect is that each and every website are now getting security audited, and there's a organization called CERTIN, which is empaneling a large number of the companies from whom you can get the cybersecurity audit, and you can get a certificate from them, which will be used as a base value so that the website can be hosted onto the cloud.
I was going to say, are you finding Indian military, Indian defence starting to certify cloud-based services? Is something we've seen in Australia with the Department of Defence and federal government, is Microsoft, AWS. Are you seeing something similar at a government level? There's a question here: is cloud safe for the military, and is India looking at it?
I think
private cloud is, yeah. So it's a private cloud. Even if the Indian Defence Forces go on, it's always going to be a private cloud. So we have a number of data centers where we, are able to host a lot of services for the defense forces. But definitely, it's going to be a cloud-based for the Indian Defence Forces. So, and that is going to be air-gapped. So there's no connectivity from outside altogether. That's already in the pipeline. It's working. Somewhat a bit of it has already been rolled out for different parts of the network.
Okay, Rajiv?
For example, at NIC, where I used to work, NIC and military has got a very good understanding, and we are hosting a large number of their applications onto our cloud. The government has set up a cloud called Meghdut, and where a large number of applications of the military, Navy, Air Force, and Army, those applications are hosted onto NIC server.
Okay,
I got a
good.
question to the panelists, Chris, if you may.
Go, Raman.
Both to Col Inderjeet and Mr. Rajiv Saxena. There's been a lot of talk going on of the South Block using .mil email. But any update you have, when will that happen? Because many of the people in South Block still use Gmail. Not everyone is using at nic.in, particularly after the Defense Communication Network. What is the holdup? Why .mil is not being used in India?
I think let Colonel speak, and then I'll add on to that.
Okay.
No, it's already there. Those are there for the internal communication. They are already using it, and the holdup may be a personal level holdup, but otherwise, from the point of view of each appointment having his unique ID, they're already in place. The people are, working on the complete email system which is there inside, is working on those domains itself.
Now, my question was, after the COVID-19 scenario, where the pre-bid meeting of the vendors is not able to take place face-to-face, lot of tender-related meetings are taking place online. So the people in the procurement agencies and the decision-making have to now interface with a large number of vendors and business enterprise from different parts of India and even outside India. So that becomes a challenge for security to conduct those video conferences and using those, sending those classified, not classified per se, but business classified documents through the internet, which was earlier not permitted to even to be handed over also. So there's a big challenge, and the security will be taking place. A big, thought and investment have to be done. Yeah. Mr. Rajiv, anything from your side?
Yeah. What happens that NIC's mail server has been upgraded to a very large extent, and now NIC has given email to all the government officers. But what is happening that people still want to carry their old Gmail or Rediff or at Yahoo or even Outlook.in along with them. And my request to that, a new mission has to be taken that Army should use only NIC email. I'm not aware that whether .mil will be used by the army or not, because I'm not interacting that much on that. But I know the civilian side of the army, who are the civilian officers who are working in MES or in Ministry of Defense, they still use Gmail or Yahoo in their official correspondence. So my request, I've been always been promoting, and IC has been always been saying that, and I'm trying to say that the army or personnel use an IC mail, which is much more secure. And let me tell you that the number of the spams which I get on Yahoo are more than what spam I get on my NIC email. So NIC email is pretty safe, and it is very good.
I've got someone has agreed with Raman there. Also feel NIC is not secure enough for the military. Well, look, I think we've gone just about on time. I'm just going to wrap it up here. We could, like I said, we've got a long list of topics that we take interest in. This has been a fascinating insight again, and I do appreciate Mr. Saxena and Colonel Singh for joining us, and your contributions are very insightful. So thank you very much for your time there. If anyone has any follow-up questions or wants to engage further, please reach out to either Raman or myself, and then we'll also put you in contact as well. Both Colonel Singh and Mr. Saxena are members of the Aerospace and Defence Consultants of India as well, so no doubt we can get some more insights also. Just to finish off, very much encourage you to visit the MySecurity Marketplace if you want to stay in touch. We talked about the cybersecurity related attacks. There's a bunch of reports and white papers on the marketplace. These are all current. They come out almost every day, and that's what the marketplace is about, is just updating. There's a how to map the MITRE attack techniques, and there's also some recent, I suppose for the Indian audience, recent advice we raised last week, I beg your pardon, from cyber.gov.au, which is the Australian Cybersecurity Centre website. It's a brand new website that just released it in the last week as well. So if you want to look at a sort of a benchmark website for cybersecurity awareness at a national level in Australia, cyber.gov.au is something you can have a look at. And also some of the recent reports that have come out the last couple of days. The last one there from yesterday, the Enterprise of Things Security Report from Forescout. And this one also, the Trustwave Spider Labs report, the Golden Tax Department Emergence of Golden Spy Malware, is also an interesting report that got a bit of attention here also. For tomorrow, for those interested in cybersecurity, we've got a special event on with the Australia-Israel Chamber of Commerce and the Israel-Australia Chamber of Commerce, where we've got Mr. Yugal Una, the Director General of the Israeli National Cyber Directorate, and we've mentioned Dr. Feakin, the Australian Ambassador for Cyber Affairs and Critical Infrastructure. So we have them on at this time tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to that. Just to getting a sort of, we're calling it a counterpart series as to Australia and Israel, and we'll bring that learning back here next week and sort of what Israel and Australia are sort of doing, and then we'll feed that back in to potentially do something similar with India also. Mention the marketplace. It's as simple as going to mysecuritymarketplace.com and sort of doing a search there. We also do a podcast show. Here we go, the Cybersecurity Weekly podcast, and have just released this morning the Privileged Attack Vectors with Maury Harbour, who's the CTO and CISO for Beyond Trust. If you're interested, and you mentioned Zero Trust there, Colonel Singh, definitely have a listen to Maury Harbour at Beyond Trust and Privileged Access Management. This guy knows everything. This is his second edition of his third book, and looks at the attack vectors, privileged attack vectors, identity attack vectors, really worthwhile in terms of privileged access management and moving into that Zero Trust scenario. So he mentioned episode 1 is recorded, and now we've concluded episode 2. We're going to be continuing on this series week to week until the end of July, and potentially through to India's National Day in mid-August. We'll see how we go, Raman, and we can conclude it here. So Any closing comments, Raman? And like to thank our guests.
Yes, based on the performance of our various fellows and contributors, including you taking a lead role to bring India, Australia together, every day, every week when we do this webinar, we submit a report to the Government of India. What are the takeaways? What are the challenges also? There is one pending point of last week of setting up a Indo-Australia Joint Cyber University. So this point I would like you to take up with Mr. Rohit Manchanda. From my side, my team consisting of Mr. Rajiv and Col Inderjeet would work out. The platform is ready. We know what we need. And this is a very big opportunity for the cyber companies also to set up a joint cyber university, set up the syllabi, certification, including the cyber practical aspects itself, cyber range as you call it.
Yeah. Something we can do, Raman, is, I mean, we mentioned ISACA before, and it's something that's also on the marketplace in terms of the ISACA CSX Cybersecurity Labs. And we are also obviously in touch, in particular, I'm in touch with Edith Cowan University, and we were in India last year with Optus Macquarie Cybersecurity Hub, which reached out and funded us to come to India last year. So what I'll do is I will reach out to the Optus Macquarie Cybersecurity Hub and see what their interest in is coming on next week, if not the week after, and just discussing what they can do. And I've got no doubt we'll have Australian universities in India, and it's a matter of whether they're in Mumbai or Delhi or Bangalore. But we'll reach out locally here at an Australian university and just at least get a sense of what is already happening. I'd be surprised if something isn't already happening in that space, and we need to tap into that and see how we can assist and at least learn from what they're doing. So that's on our to-do list.
I'd like to make a last comment, sir, if you allow me.
Yes, Max.
A long time back, when the e-commerce came, there was an earlier version called EDI, or Electronic Data Interchange. And there was a university in Australia called the Deakin's University. And Deakin's University had a collaboration with IGNOU, Indira Gandhi Open University. And Deakin University and IGNOU started a year-long EDI course, and which was very popular in India. And I used to teach EDI from the Indian side, and I don't remember the name of the professor. So India has a great regard for the Australian knowledge and the university setup. So that will be, I like to what Mr. Raman has said, that will be a great opportunity and a great learning exercise for all of us.
What I've always wanted to do is I've just slipped that slide. So we're starting a Slack channel. I don't know if you're aware of Slack, but we use it as a team, and we're going to open up a Slack channel for the India series, and then we can start to share this related information on an ongoing remote chat, and we'll have the links for our upcoming episodes to this Slack channel, and it's something that we can start to use both as a team, but also to share this information, because obviously there's documents and videos and those types of things we can start to share. So if you use Slack, have a look out for the My Security Media India series, but again, we'll put the link out and a call. So just letting you know that Slack channel is coming. So I think, Raman, on that note, we will thank our special guests, Rajiv Saxena and Col Inderjeet Singh. Thank you so much for joining us this week. And Raman Sapuri, my co-host with the Aerospace and Defence Consultants of India. Thank you very much for joining us this week on the virtual educational series.
Chris, last point.
Go.
I just got a call from parents of one student. They want to know, can we get some counseling through the Chris Kabaj and Raman Sapuri's team? What kind of courses the students would like to do in the cybersecurity? They want a full-time graduation in cybersecurity. I was not aware of any university in India which is offering such a course. And the father of the child is a vice chancellor himself in a university. He says, my university doesn't offer. So I said I'll check with Chris. So if you can tell us which are the universities in Australia offering such a course, we would like to have this counseling done to the students. They've been reaching out to us in large numbers.
Okay, well, we'll create a list. In fact, what I'll do is next week I'll introduce a bunch of lists. There's pretty much most major universities now in Australia cover a cybersecurity course. Keep mentioning the New South Wales government and AusCyber have started through our TAFE. Our technical units have also started cybersecurity courses. But Edith Cowan University, I mentioned Macquarie University, Deakin, RMIT, most of them are covering cybersecurity and all the way through to PhDs and doctorates. The other thing to kind of get a sense of what open courses is that we have free training on the marketplace as well, ESET training and the ISACA related training where you can just start to do small labs to get a sense of what cybersecurity is about before you go on and do a whole degree. But we'll cover that off next week, and we'll do a special section on universities and courses, I think. Cybersecurity education's been raised 2 weeks in a row now, so it's obviously going to be a key one that we follow through.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much. On that note, we will close it off, and at just under 1 hour. Well done. Thank you very much, gents.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day in Delhi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a safe day. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Namaste.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Namaste.
Bye-bye.